Hey everybody, welcome to Muscular Development's preview of the Vancouver Pro Show happening this Sunday in Vancouver, British Columbia. That's in the way western part of Canada. Joining me today, my man over in the United Kingdom, Giles Tiger Thomas from Tiger Towers. How are you, sir?
Ron, it's about 300 degrees here. What's it like where you are?
300, is that Celsius? See, I don't know. Is that hot in Celsius? 300? No, you're kidding, right? It's going to be 90 today in Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've been averaging like 85 to 90. But wow. The US is getting very, very hot these past few years. We're breaking like past records all the time.
Yeah, but you'll have 10 feet of snow tomorrow in Boston.
No, we won't. But they're saying like Phoenix, Arizona might be unlivable in 20 years. It'll be like 130 degrees in the summer, like a human being couldn't survive.
Well, my lizards would like to live there because they can take up to, I think it's up to 145 degrees on there. Ooh. They can bask in those kind of temperatures. So they love it out there.
Okay, well, we're not lizards, so we're in trouble. But let's get into it. Now, this show, this was probably the most famous rendition of the show was 3 years ago because it was the first time Hadi Choopan had ever come over to this part of the world and competed. Nobody knew what to expect. I think he was still fairly new as an open competitor at that time. I think he'd only done a few open shows.
I'm pretty sure that was his first one because in 2018 he won the 212 at Portugal and beating Nicholas Vuliud when they were called out together. That was the first year the Portugal show happened. And he did an open show in 2017 at San Marino, if you remember.
Yeah.
I might have mentioned that once or twice, that show.
A couple times.
I think he got a good value for money for sending me out there because I think I've been rambling on about that show for about 5 years. But
quite a lineup.
Yeah, so he definitely did San Marino in 2017 as an open. When basically Korea, he obviously won the 212.
Yeah.
Flex Lewis won the 212. Sorry, but that was really, obviously that was the first time over the pond, hate that phrase, that where he competed as an open. But that thing is, I think that was probably, and also the lighting was beautiful and the stage. And I mean, those photos, I know that Hector took some photos from that show of Hadi. And to me, I mean, I'd struggle to find a better form of Hadi Choopan at that show because he looked absolutely sensational. Were you at that one?
No, but you know why Hadi looked so great at that show? Because it had a black backdrop.
Oh, no, don't start. Don't start.
But it's true, though. I mean, everyone says that's the best Hadi's ever looked. I'm sure Hadi's looked as good or better since then, but black backdrop showcases the physique in just a certain way that it's hard to do with, we won't get into the whole argument, but with those giant LED screens and the light behind the athlete, it doesn't really bring out the full impact of the physique the way a black backdrop does. That's all.
And it kind of had a little bit of the old school Night of Champions overhead dramatic lighting as well. So, and I mean, and just obviously the overall lighting itself was good. So all the photos were like pin sharp, like you said, the black background. Yeah. But and the thing is, that show was also because that was Nathan Diash's. That was one of his. He obviously competed and he got set. No one expected him to get beat by Hadi Choopan convincingly, which he did.
Right.
But that was also one of the emergence of Quinton area because that was. I remember Sibu Sisu was in that show. I mean, that was a really stacked show. Valier, what was Valier? Was he fifth or sixth?
So I looked up his history at the show, and probably the reason he's returning to it. He did this show twice. He did 2018 he was fourth, and 2019 he was fourth again. So yeah, he's got something to prove at this show.
Unfinished business.
Rather than a standard preview, because there's only really two names people are really focused on, that's what I really want our focus to be on. It's VVVV, 4 V's, Valier versus Valant in Vancouver. That's 4, right?
See what you did there. Very...
It's a lot of V's. How often do you get two guys with the last name V in a show and they're the front runners like that?
Lots of V's.
Yeah, the French Canadian names, although Ian is, I believe, half Scottish. That's where he gets that odd spelling of Ian, I-A-I-N. That's right. Yeah.
Very pale skin.
He's very pasty. Yes, like a Dennis Wolf complexion. But Look, I just want to run through their contest history so people know on paper why I think Ian has the edge over him. So Ian last year had a fantastic year. He won the Tampa show, Tampa Pro. He won the Texas Pro, 7th place at the Olympia. Oh, I forgot he had also been 2nd place at the Arnold Classic to Nick Walker. So that was a hell of a year for Ian last year.
Yeah.
2020, he had won the New York Pro. 2018, he'd won the Big Man Show in Portugal. So he has a total of, he's been up on stage as a pro 13 times. He's got 4 wins. Antoine, in contrast, not quite as experienced, 6 pro shows with 1 win. He did 2 in 2013 when he was still, dealing with the addiction, things like that. Didn't do well.
The New York Pro, didn't he? I remember, because he got like 10th, and then he kind of fell off, didn't he, with his issues?
Yeah, he did Toronto and New York sort of within a couple of weeks of each other. And then we didn't hear from him he didn't compete for 5 years. Came back to Toronto in 2018. I was there. He took 4th. New York Pro, 7th place in 2020. But then a week later, comes back looking ridiculous and wins the Cali Pro. That is his only pro win. And at last year's Olympia, 2020 Olympia, he has been on the Olympia stage, 14th place. So on paper, you got Ian Valliere, much more experience, more wins. Physique-wise, I want to hear your take. How do you compare the two?
Well, just covering the contest placings. I mean, really, we kind of, I personally use like Olympia placings as a gauge. And Ian Valliere was 14th in 2018.
Yep.
And Antoine was 14th in 2020. So you could argue that he's 2 years behind Ian.
Yeah, true.
Really, in terms of kind of where he is now, in terms of physiques, they're both the only thing where they kind of had any similarities. They're kind of both, arguably, their weakness is their chest. Mm-hmm. But I mean, overall, I mean, this isn't. I think, well, Ian obviously is way ahead at the moment, but he's in terms of conditioning and everything else, but I just feel like he's that little bit further ahead than Antoine at the moment. But thing is, with Antoine, like I didn't even know he was competing. I mean, I follow his social media, and he was posting videos, and I'm thinking, the other day he posted because he always puts like heavy metal music in the background, yeah. And he was saying 2 weeks out, hashtag Vancouver, and I was thinking, is that even I didn't even know whether it was a new shot or not, or a new video. I thought maybe it's an old one, because he does post a lot of old stuff, because he kind of obviously with the bicep injury, I was looking at the video, I couldn't tell that he'd had 2 bicep injuries.
He's torn both.
He's torn both, and I couldn't, in his front double bicep, usually you can see the shortening of the muscle where it bunches up, but I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell, and I just thought, and he looks as good as he's ever looked. So I'm just really excited to see him returning, because I mean, the first time I remember in 2019 when he broke snapped the bicep the first time, and what was he? Was he right out before a show, wasn't it? What was it? What show was it?
I think he was 3 weeks out of New York Pro.
Yeah, and I remember I was messaging him because we were all worried he was going to. Well, actually, I'll be honest, we were worried he was going to relapse. With his past issues, because I thought, and he was saying, no, don't worry, that's all behind me. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm just going to get physio. I'm pissed off because he was putting a dumbbell back, wasn't he?
No, the first time he tore it, he was moving some in that Pure Muscle and Fitness gym. He was just moving some like drywall or some metal corrugated, some building materials, moving them from one area to another, because they were still under construction or something. It was something like you'd never expect to get hurt doing, but that's how a lot of these things happen. But the thing about Antoine, not only that, is a few months ago, he was making videos that he had concerns about his heart health. His doctor was concerned.
That's
remember
right.
that? And he was talking about retiring, and we're like, people were making videos like, oh, he should retire, or no, he shouldn't retire. And I didn't think he'd be back on stage this soon, because it seemed like he was really struggling with whether to continue doing this or not. And clearly he's decided this is his life. This is what he wants to do.
That's right, because it looked like an ultrascan, and I said, is it a boy or a girl? Because it looked like an ultrasound. It looked like an ultrasound of, like the baby pictures when they're like 12 weeks. And I said, is it a boy or a girl? But because he's got some faulty valve or something on his heart, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, obviously I'm, I'm leading the way for the old heart issues. But I, obviously now I'm really thinking, shit, is he okay? Do you know what I mean? But I just hope he is okay. And the video I saw, he looks absolutely sensational. Ian, I think with Ian, I mean, I know 2018 he had that good year and he looked great at the Olympia. We had him a lot higher. Then 2019 was just disastrous for him. 2020, he really started to improve and come back and start to fulfill the potential we know he has. 2021 was an absolute ripper of a year from him. He did amazing. Second at the Arnold Classic. He knocked out Steve Kuclo at the night show, because originally it was Nick Walker and Steve Kuclo at the judging. Yeah. And we thought, he's third. In fact, I thought Justin Rodriguez might step ahead of him. So I maybe thought he might fall down to fourth or fifth. Yeah. Pulled it out of the bag for the night show like he always does. He did it at Texas as well. And he looked absolutely fantastic and took second place. So, I mean, in the second biggest show. So he's really on a roll right now. But also, I'm not even going to try and entertain it, because I haven't seen any progress pictures, but that's not a bad sign with Ian. It's just, I think he's at a point now where he's quietly confident enough, and he's that prepared. And I know he's obviously working with Patrick Tour. So that really he's going to come in he's going to come in prepared. He's not going to take any chances. And thing is, also, I always get nervous when even the big names leave the qualifiers qualifying until the last minute. Guys like Akim Williams, Steve Kuclo, Justin Rodriguez, who's definitely, is he out of the Olympia now? He said he's out now for the year.
Yeah, he's done. His body needs a break. He's out. Yeah.
So, I mean, and if that happens to these guys now, they miss their chance, So I think thing is though, is Ian just doing this one show, or is he going to go and try and defend at Texas?
Well, if he wins this, and I'm not saying he's going to, because I don't want to disrespect anybody, but if he wins it, I want to get him on the Ron Line Report next week and find it. I got all kinds of things I want to talk to Ian about. Bumstead now being coached by Hanley Rambo, a lot of things to talk about with Ian. But you've also talked before about how Ian. I believe I've heard about Tampa. I hope he does do Tampa, because I'm going to be there. And I'd love to see him. He's won that, right? Has he won that? Yeah, he won it last year. So it would be great to see him defend the title. Hey, he's a guy like we've talked about before. He competes. He's not going to just shut it down with this one win. I don't see that happening. And he gets better as the shows go by. Yeah. So maybe why not Chicago? Chicago's next, the weekend after this.
Oh, he's going to be he's going to be ruining some people's dreams. He's going to
win everything. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah. Why not?
I put that thread up on MD. What's your feelings on guys that get a qualification? Do you think even if they've committed to more shows, do you think they should go ahead and potentially win those shows like Hassan did the other week with Orlando and what was the other show? The first one he won?
Puerto Rico.
Sorry, Puerto Rico and then Orlando. Or do you think they should just try and jump into an off season and then just go and just focus on the Olympia? What's your feelings on that?
I think it depends on the athlete and what they need. If somebody needs to work on a body part or overall mass, if there's something that is going to benefit them to improve before the Olympia, but some of these guys, they're at the point where they don't really need off-season. Like Ian Valier, what kind of off-season does he really need at this point? Does he need to be a lot bigger? Yeah, he could use a little more chest. I mean, is an off-season going to give him this giant freaky chest? I don't know. But I like to see these guys compete because they're professional athletes, professional bodybuilders. We came up as kids watching those guys in the 90s, Vince Taylor, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, Nasser, Milos, these guys that just hit all the shows, and they tried Paul Dillette, Chris Cormier, and they tried to win everything. Why not? Because, the other side of the coin.
There was less shows then, mate. There
were less shows, but the argument is, well, you got your Olympia qualification. Why don't you let someone else get one? No, the Olympia is the elite. It's supposed to be the best in the world. So if some guy shows up that's already qualified and you can't beat him, you're not going to beat him at the Olympia. I mean, we're trying to find the best bodybuilder in the world. That's what all this leads up to for the whole year, leading up to the Olympia. So,
yeah, I'm going to cop out completely here now. And I'm kind of undecided. I'm undecided because in one ways, I think that like Hassan doing the Arnold UK or going and doing another show, I think is great. Andrea Presti going and doing the Yamamoto. And I mean, obviously he's sponsored by Yamamoto. That's kind of a no-brainer. Probably not a very good example. But, but sometimes I can't decide how I feel about it, because if I was like say an Ian Valier fan, and he wins Vancouver and then says, do you know what? I'm going to shut it down. I'm not doing Tampa. And I bought tickets, or I was most looking forward to seeing Ian defend his title at the Tampa. I'd be really pissed off. So I kind of see both sides of the argument, but he's, yeah, I mean, obviously he probably robbed Steve Kuclo of that opportunity to qualify last year, but then, you know, like you said, he's got to go up against him at the Olympia anyway. So I guess it's competition. That's exactly what it is. At the end of the day, if you know you're gonna like Presti doing Portugal, it's like he's picked himself up another 10K there, and 2 wins going into the Olympia is a lot better than 1. You know, and it's I think sometimes it's good for these guys to go after the competition. And I think the main thing is, especially with lineups like in the Vancouver now, which are very small. Imagine if Ian had done Portugal, won that, you know, and then didn't turn up to this one. Like some of these, I feel it's the promoters, I think, are the ones that they need to, where they're honoring competing in these shows, I think is the best thing for them. Because, you know, if you've got names pulling out of shows and people, you know, and they're on the poster and it's kind of like false, you know, the promoters get accused of false advertising and stuff like that. I kind of see that their point, you know, for it. So,
you know, I want to remind people, because you and I remember this, but a lot of the current fans, they're not even going to believe this was the way it was. For many years, every pro at the very beginning of the calendar year had to submit, these are the shows I'm going to do this year. And they got contracts, and they signed contracts for every show they were going to compete in that year. And unless they could get a valid medical excuse or something, they could not pull out without a big fine. They were fined big cash amounts back then. If they
when did that? What, I don't ever remember that being announced that ever stopped. I mean, I kind of like, now you bring it up, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, like sometimes like we see, like you know when we do these previews, you know, we wait till Monday till the official list comes out. But then, like Andrea Muzzi turning up to Portugal last week, it's like these guys can still jump in at the last minute. So, like sometimes we do previews and they'll say, "Why didn't you mention Andrea Muzzi?" It's like, well, we didn't freaking know he was in the show when we recorded this. We recorded this on the Tuesday. It's out on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. It's like we didn't know, you know. And it's so I guess now I think the rules are a little bit more relaxed, and I'm sure there's probably good reasons for it. Probably because then, you know, like it was great seeing. I was excited when I saw Muzzi in Portugal last week. Yeah. So, I mean, would potentially we have another 1 or 2 names jumping into this one?
I mean, so we're recording this on a Wednesday morning, and I just checked the list. We did have a couple additions. Jonas Jaitris just jumped into the show,
cool.
Who was 3rd in Puerto Rico in his pro debut, 6th place in Orlando. He's very good. Mm-hmm. Also want to mention real quick a guy, because I checked out the pictures, Hossein Kaleta, from Kaleta, a Persian name, I believe, from Canada. Thick, grainy, vascular guy. There's 7 men in the lineup, so 2 or more have joined the lineup. But I think it's a good thing for the fans, because it does allow last-minute entries. And I think what happens now, because they don't have that pressure that I have to commit to a show 8-10 months in advance and this and that, they can say somebody doesn't win a show that they anticipate on winning, or they don't place as highly. Instead of just shutting it down, they can say, well, there's one next week. You know, I just missed I screwed something up. I spilled over. Chicago's next week. Let me do Chicago. Or something happens there. They didn't place. Well, Tampa's the week after. I can go do Tampa. I can do Texas. I think it's better for the promoters, it's better for the fans, because it gives them more leeway to bolster the lineup.
I wish I could somehow transport Vlad Suhorochko, Tim Buddersheim, and Andrea Muzzi and put them in this show, because I think that would really add to it. But also, where if it's a Canadian show and it's you know, it's difficult for travel and everything in Canada, where's Quintin Area and where's Joe Seaman? I would like to have seen those 2 in this show. I mean, Joe was competing a few months ago. Yeah. And he looked great, but he looked a bit washed out. Maybe like a few more weeks prep could have, I mean, maybe he'd be a last minute entry, but I suppose it's all semantics, is it?
I mean, the Quint, I can never tell, because sometimes he gets so lean that I think he's like ready for a show, and he's not. He's just, that's how lean he stays. I don't know what Quinton's doing. He's looking great, Quint Beastwood, right now. I hope he jumps into one of these shows. I think one thing is that most of the better Canadian bodybuilders are on the eastern side. They're in Ontario, near Toronto and the surrounding areas, where this is way out west. It's like comparing New York and Los Angeles.
Well, 3-4 hour plane ride.
Oh, at least I want to say
Really?
more like, yeah, at least because it's all the way across Canada. So it's not easy for even these guys because, well, Antoine's he lives in Toronto now. Ian's in Florida. But I'm saying a lot of the Toronto area shows typically get a lot bigger lineups because that's where most of these people live in all the divisions. I mean, I've been to some of these Toronto pros. It was just sometimes 20, 30 people in every class. And, majority of them were from Canada because it was a short trip. I want to ask you, in what scenario could Antoine Vallant beat Ian Valliere?
It's not out of the question. It's not out of the question. It's unlikely, but it's not out of the question. I mean, Ian would have to be so cocky that he's going to win this, that he comes in at 80%. But really, the likelihood of that happening is pretty much zero. So I just hope. I mean, I'm a big fan of Antoine. I love his physique. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And it's a shame when he won the Cali Pro, it was during COVID time, and it was in the lighting was shocking.
It was the webcast for that was no offense to promoters. That was one of the worst. I couldn't even see if the guys were in shape or fat. I could not tell. It was the resolution it was like an old flip phone. But yeah, I feel bad because I know I saw some pictures and he looked fantastic, but I don't think there's any video of that show. And that was his best look. He was phenomenal.
I remember doing doing some play-by-play for that, and it's like Max Charles. Like, what do you think? It's like, I don't know. I don't know whether he looks good or he looks terrible.
I'm not even sure that is Max. I couldn't even.
Oh no, it's somebody else
in a mask. These poor guys had to wear masks on stage and everything.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, Antoine, I love his physique. Beautiful peaked biceps. Those legs of his. I think condition is the one thing. Ian's got that really grainy, that old, I shouldn't say old man muscle. He's only like 30 years old, 31 years old, but he's already got that muscle density that you rarely see. And he's just getting better and better. He's somebody that a few years ago, I was like not impressed with Ian. When he turned pro, I say this all the time because I like to eat my words. I like to say I was so wrong. When he turned, I saw a picture in the Flex, I think it was Flex magazine. He turned pro in like the Amateur Olympia in South America. And I'm like, this guy was so bad. He had to go all the way down to like Colombia, wherever it was that year, to try to beat all those guys. And he was like 220 when he turned pro. Not impressive. To me, he looked like, one step above men's physique. No offense, guys. But I didn't think he had the mass. I was like, this guy sucks. He's going to be a horrible pro. They're giving pro cards to everybody these days. Ian Valliere. Who the hell is this guy? A couple of years later, he really, really improved, got bigger and badder.
Remember, because he looked incredible at the 2018 Olympia, and I've had him on Global a few times, and I said the curse of that 2018 Olympia, because 14th was not an indication of how good he was, because we were there, we were at that Olympia, and I was like when the rest of the guys outside of the top 10 were lining up, I said, look at Ian. I said, that guy he's the best up there out of the non-top 10 guys, Yeah. And I just thought, and his color and his condition, he was so polished, he was like Andrea Presti, you just look at everything and every fine detail, not just the conditioning, but the skin and the color. And because, guys like him that are that pale, it's like Dennis Wolf, they take, sometimes it takes them a few years to even get their color right.
Right.
And he just looked amazing. And then after that, he just kind of really started to drop off. And I wasn't starting to lose faith. But then in 2020, I know he teamed up with Patrick Tour from Switzerland, a good friend. And then the magic just then finally started to get the engine going again. And everything was revving. And he really started to fulfill that potential. I was so happy. And it's just been a rise ever since. I mean, and he always pulls it out the bag for the night show. Because, I mean, even when he won the New York Pro, I think I had him 4th or 5th. I told him this to his face. I told him the low resolution pictures.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could see the episode of Global where I'm reviewing the post down footage, and you actually cameras on me, and I'm going, oh, the high resolution footage. It really tells a different story, and that's when I really started to realize that with some guys, you do need to see the better quality images, because like literally from what I was seeing from like the cell phone pictures and whatever, like the low quality kind of phone footage or whatever, I was like, I've got like 4th or 5th. And I remember Jen on she goes, no, I think Ian's going to win. I was like, no way he's going to win the New York Pro. And then he did. But when I saw the high resolution images and the footage, that's when I realized how bloody good he looked and how good he is. So, but he's one of these guys also that really pulls it out of the bag for the night show, because the pre-judging, I mean, I couldn't, Texas last year, I couldn't decide between him and Phil Clayhara was third, and Steve Goodclaw. I thought Steve had him. But then at the night show, like he did at the Arnold Classic when he leapfrogged over Steve Goodclaw, last year's Arnold Classic, I was just like, wow, he does it every single time. I mean, he's the new Mr. Saturday Night. Absolutely.
Yeah. Not only, it's just funny you bring that up, because Texas, I was watching the webcast. You know, these webcasts, it's 4K and it's great, but the high resolution pictures, once I, like yourself, every time I see those, I'm like, wow, because they look good on the video, but you can't really see every little fiber and detail the way you can in those high res images. When those get posted, I was like, geez, okay, I could see why he beat Steve. Steve's great, but I could see it now. But when I was watching, we were doing the play-by-play, and I was like, Kuklow's got it. Kuklow's got it. I was dead certain that Kuklow had that show until I saw those images. And I'm like, nah, no, maybe not.
I think when you get to see the good quality, the good quality video footage and the good quality proper professional photos through a 35mm camera, I think then you get to see what the judges are seeing on the day. Because like you're like, what's so much? I had, like you said, I'm 4th or 5th, and then when you see the pictures, like, oh, okay, I get it now. But I don't know why he's one of those guys that does that. Whether it's what it is about his physique that, in low quality images, he doesn't look as impressive as he does when you see the better. I mean, the disparity is huge. So I don't know what it is with those guys. Some of those guys sometimes, maybe because he's got a pretty good structure. He's got a good shape. I mean, I love his side tricep. I think he's absolutely awesome. So so this weekend, it'll be interesting between him and Antoine. But like I said, I rate them both. I love both their physiques. Yeah. And I'm really happy for Antoine coming back, because he's had a bit of a rough couple of years there. I mean, ripping his bicep, then doing it again. I mean, psychologically, that's going to be really tough to come back from, because, when you have an injury, then when you're training hard and heavy, at the back of your mind thinking, oh shit, I could do this again. Do you know what I mean? It must be hard to come back from that again and again. So I'm just really excited to see Antoine back. Yeah. And but I see Ian taking the win here. So
selfishly, let's say Ian wins. I want to see Antoine in Chicago, because I'll be there. I want to see him in Tampa, because I'll be there. Texas too. Antoine, you got to do all these shows. And Ian might do them all too. Who knows? I mean, I hope they do. I want to see all the best guys in every show. I'm greedy like that.
Are you going to Texas?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe we're planning.
That's one show I'd like to have gone to last year, because I mean, the buzz that I heard from that show, and I had one of the promoters, Freddie Nadeau, I had him on the Hype Show last year, and I barely said a word, and the passion behind that guy. That guy's sort of, and I see the way that they promote their shows through the year. I mean, these are guys, this is a guy and his team. Is it Sheila, the black lady, and there's a third one as well.
Yeah, I only know Freddie, but yeah, Hector was there last year, and, it's in that gasp area. So all those athletes and that whole, it's just like, I haven't been to the Dallas area since I went there for the Ronnie Coleman weekend 17 years ago. So wow. It's been a while.
I was there in 2016 when who won the women's physique.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Didn't talk about that.
Voldemort.
No. She won. Yeah, she won the pro. And then I was there obviously in 2012 for the groundbreaking ceremony for Gasp when they initially started Destination. And I remember because I turned up and there was like a big gazebo thing, and I literally just kept bumping into like Rich Gaspari, Flex Lewis was there.
Branch was there.
Branch was there. Johnny was there. And then Zach Kahn turns up, and I'd only spoke to him a couple of days before. And I said, wow. Zach, you kept this quiet. And he turned up with Larissa Reese.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was my friend Crystal. I was there with Simon Fan. That was such a good trip. That was such a great trip. I love Texas. Great people as well.
Tejas, yeah. It was originally part of Mexico. Actually, Texas was its own country for about 50 years, I want to say.
Wasn't it?
Republic of Texas. True story. Look it up, guys. Look it up on Wikipedia, where I get all my information.
One last thing. And I trained at Metroflex in August.
I
did shoulders, and Flex Lewis was there, and Johnny Jackson and Branch Warren were training shoulders, and so was I. But I wasn't training with them.
What'd you think, though? What'd you think of Metroflex?
I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it. Do you know what? That's the kind of gyms I used to train at in Wales. I mean, obviously a lot warmer, but that's the kind of like spit and sawdust, grimy, dirty kind of, no disrespect, but that's the kind of gyms that I used to love training at in winter, and your hands stick to the bar. It's so cold, but like that's what I'm basically used to from when I started training, 13, 14 years old in Wales. I mean, that was, so I was just in heaven there, and the atmosphere, it was just a fantastic place. But yeah, I'd love to go back to Texas, actually. I think Gasp have got 40-year anniversary function in August.
40 years?
1982.
Wow. I had no idea they'd been around that long. Wow.
Or is it 30?
Even then, I didn't, I can't remember hearing about, they were probably big over in Sweden and Europe for a while before they came here, because I don't remember Gasp until 20 years ago at the earliest, I want to say. At the earliest.
The family, Michael and his family, moved that year in 2012. Okay. And they just literally, and they've still got all the offices and the factory and everything in Sweden. So they have it, they're like split between Sweden and Texas. But I'm a gas top on that.
Wow. Well, yeah, you always
plug there.
You always represent them very well. Well, let's wrap it up. It's the Vancouver Pro Show. The website is vanproshow.com. As of today on Wednesday, I have not heard anything about a live stream, webcast, anything like that. But sometimes these things are announced, Thursday, Friday. It's happening. It's a 2-day event, but the Pro Show is on Sunday. So we're looking to see if Ian Valliere picks up his Olympia qualification. Maybe in a crazy world, maybe Antoine Vallant beats him. Who knows what will happen? It's bodybuilding. I've seen crazy things happen in this sport. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. So Giles, thank you so much for being part of this preview. Sorry, guys, we didn't talk about 30 or 40 people, but we focused on the two big names because they're both starting with V. That's why it just made so much sense. So anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, drop some comments down there. Agree with us, disagree with us. It's all good. Hit the notification bell. And one last time, thank you, Giles Tiger Thomas. We're eagerly awaiting the return of MD Global Muscle when you're feeling fit as a fiddle again.
And aside from that, congratulations on 500 run lines, mate. That's a huge achievement, and that's that really is quite something. So congratulations, mate. I remember when you started them, mate. I remember.
Well, if you guys watch the fight, because that's actually airing, I have to get on the live chat in like 3 minutes. Jen showed clips from the beginning from some of them, and the very first one I did was with Sean Ray. And it looks like it was shot with a flip phone from like 1999. The sound, I sounded like I'm underwater. Oh, it was horrible. So we've come a long way, baby. So thanks. Yeah, that's it. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.